I mean, he's long past now, but yeah. And then, anyways.
Tony, you're unmuted, by the way.
Thank you. It's outrageous that I was muted in the first place.
But don't start complaining. I don't know who muted you, but let's not do that. You're unmuted.
Okay, well, I'm about to revisit the thing. It was because the same thing happened just now. People in particular, the same person did it. E1 just introduced something as though it was a fact that the SR-71 is a stealth vehicle and is considered a stealth vehicle. That is absolutely and that it doesn't contain any 90-degree angles. All of those claims are completely untrue, and he asserts them as though this is something that he has researched and that he has looked up. It's not true.
Okay.
Okay, we were just discussing that. I mean, no need to get
Well, given that it's related to why I was muted 12 hours ago, it seems relevant.
I muted you? Wait a minute.
I didn't mute
you or have anything to do with muting you about talking about.
No, I didn't say that you did. But it frustrates me when people say, look, here's this fact. Okay, I'm going to do the same. Did you know that the United States had an emperor, Emperor Norton I? He lived in San Francisco in the 19th century. Do you believe me when I make that assertion?
Yeah, sorry you got muted, Tony.
Now, that is an outrageous claim. It is an outrageous claim to claim that the United States had an emperor. But it turns out that it's true. I looked it up. I've researched it. There's books on him. There's documentation of him. Emperor Norton I. He lived in... When you introduce a fact, when you say this is a fact, and I looked it up, this is a fact I know, I looked it up, I did all the research, and then it turns out that it's complete bullshit, you're lying to people. And
I don't feel that I'm lying to people about the SR-71. You can say that, but I don't feel that I'm lying. I am under the impression, and so is the pilots of the SR-71, and so are the people at Skunk Works, that they were designing a stealth plane. They were using a stealth technology. That's how they were designing it. I'm not saying that I'm directly correct on that, but that's the assumption that I was gathering from the information from the pilots of the SR-71. I've actually put on the helmet of an SR-71 before from one of my best friends. His dad was a pilot in Sacramento, California, that went and flew the SR-71, and they were talking about it being stealth. They were the ones who told me that the reason that they considered it stealth was because the front of it and everything doesn't have 90-degree angles so that the radar doesn't bounce off of it. I'm sorry, the radar doesn't bounce back to the radar signals don't bounce back to the radar because I can confirm that it was the sharp angles. It had all kinds of steep angles that, yeah, you're right, would not allow the radar to bounce back directly to the source. It would kick it off to a different angle. That was part of it. The other part, Snacks, settle down, bro. We don't need riddles right now. The other part was
I'm fucking trying
material.
to read the definition, asshole.
All right, go ahead, bro.
No, it's all right. No, I'm sure your anecdotes are they're going to hold plenty of water for Tony. That's fine.
All right, another riddle, bro. Good job, bro. Anyways,
I just looked it up.
There was some sort of coating on it.
Just looked it up. There's no 90-degree angles on the SR-71.
And the paint was a radar absorbing paint that they use on the B2, the F-111, the SR-71, and the famed Aurora that nobody even believes existed. This certain paint was used for that. I'm not saying that it worked, but that's what they claim. That's what Skunk Works claims, and that's what the pilots for the SR-71. I could be wrong, and we could all be wrong that it's not a stealth plane, but that's what they are saying. So I don't want you to think that I'm lying to you.
As well, you did lie. You did lie many times previously when you asserted the location of Point Nemo, when you asserted the timing of the equinox. You did this as though they are facts, as though the timing of the equinox doesn't vary from year to year. These are all facts that you can look up, and you asserted incorrectly about them. And then you come in, and when you're corrected about this, you start going off on other stuff. But to come back to the SR-71,
when we talked about Point Nemo, I gave it to you. I told you I agree with you. Point Nemo was down below where we're talking about, but it was in that area. That's what we're talking about. I agree with you though. I wasn't lying though. You're acting like I'm lying about.
Point Nemo is 5,000
So he was wrong.
kilometers away
So you're
from
saying
the
he was
equator.
wrong, Tony, huh?
I was wrong, but I wasn't lying to you. The same way that I'm not lying to you that the SR-71 is a spy or not a spy plane, is a stealth plane. That the makers of it purported it. That's how it was brought to us, the American people or the world, that it was a stealth plane. That's all I'm saying. I'm not lying to you.
The SR-71's primary defense mechanism, as SC Montreal has already pointed out, was its extreme speed and remains its extreme speed, right?
Small radar cross-section.
That is
stealth plane.
It's, well, for starters, it's absolutely, it's claimed to be a stealth. Are you aware of the development of stealth technology or not?
Yes.
Because extreme speed is incompatible with stealth, isn't it? Because the turbulence wakes, even if the plane were completely radar invisible, right, the turbulence wakes behind it are visible. So,
right, hold on. I understand that, but I'm not lying. I don't care about all this. What you said was I was lying to you about Point Nemo, and I wasn't. I was misunderstood as far as exactly how we were looking at where Point Nemo is, as opposed to where we're talking about the furthest distance from any part. Now, when we're talking about the stealth, I wasn't lying to you. You don't believe that it's a stealth plane, but that's what it's purported to be. That's what Skunkworks says. Even if I'm wrong, even if it's not right, I'm not lying to you.
If you assert, and you keep on saying that, and you are again just wrong. If you assert something that you claim is a fact that you have researched, and it turns out that it's just false, that's a lie. It may not be an intentional lie. You may not have intended to deceive, but it is a lie. And you can look up. Jesus Christ! I let you talk without interruption.
We don't have an argument anymore.
I let you explain yourself without interruption, and then instantly, as soon as I make my point,
you're an asshole.
Tony, just let me stop this. We don't have to have this argument anymore.
5,000 kilometers away from the equator. You claimed that it was on the equator. It's not even fucking close to the equator. It's not even close to the point that it's the better part of 7,000 kilometers away from the point that you identified. It's not in the region. It's not approximately where you said it was. It's nowhere fucking near where you said it was.
But you're saying I'm lying.
Kilometers away.
But you're saying I'm lying when I misquoted or misspoke about Point Nemo. Now you're saying, and that's fine. You can say that I'm lying about that. I don't agree with you. Many other people that are listening right now don't agree with you as far as that on Point Nemo. But the stealth thing, now that we're talking about that was 5 hours ago what we were talking about Point Nemo. When we're talking about the stealth, do you honestly believe that I'm lying to you to tell you that I believe that it's a stealth plane? Skunkworks is claiming that it's a stealth plane, that they literally designed it to be a stealth plane. Do you think that I'm lying to you about that? Or do you think that you might be misinterpreted what is saying between Skunkworks and then what I'm telling you? Do you actually think I'm lying to you?
I am claiming that it is an extremely early, that there were extremely early attempts to make it as stealthy as they could. But to claim that it's a stealth plane is, I think, inaccurate because its primary. Much more effort was put into making it fast than was put into making it stealth. Right?
I understand that.
It's claimed to be stealth.
It was not designed to be stealth. If it was designed to be stealthy, it was designed to be fast. That was its overarching design feature. And then they decided to put stealth elements on it as far as they could be made compatible with the speed.
Yeah,
so
that's fine. That's fine, but it's still claiming to be stealth.
So the stealth elements were second order effects, right? They were not the primary design characteristics going into the plane.
Right, that is correct. And I did some further research, and it appears that there was paint on it, and it was partially designed to absorb radar, and that was in the early stages. But the main thing was height and speed. So we're both correct on this.
Well, I don't think we're both correct on this because I didn't say that he was lying. He said I was lying about this, and it's you even just showed that I wasn't lying about it.
The lying part, the lying part is uncalled for, I think, Tony. Maybe
that's all I was trying to argue against. I wasn't lying to anybody.
If somebody has a habit, if somebody repeatedly asserts things that they should have looked up. If somebody comes in and says this is a fact, the equinox occurs on this date every year, exactly the same year on year. That's just false. Okay, so the same person in the same conversation then goes, Point Nemo is at 0 degrees north and 180 degrees east. That's not true. And then they make a series of other assertions that are not true. Do they just not check anything that they think of as true? What are their standards for truth? At some point, a person has to take responsibility when they introduce
everything you talk about.
How about you let me finish? And then you can talk. If somebody repeatedly introduces elements as though they are stone cold facts, and these turn out to be false, they have an obligation to check whether or not what they are saying is in fact true.
And I did.
Right?
On Point Nemo, on the equinoxes that you're talking about, and on the stealth plane that we said that is not a stealth plane that we all can look up and see that Skunkworks said it was a stealth plane. I have explained exactly what the problem was with the miscommunication or with the misspoken of a word or a point that it was, but I didn't lie. You keep saying lie, and I didn't lie to you. I'm not.
You look up the definition of lie. Because a lie doesn't need to be intentional.
Ewan, you made now repeatedly the claim that Lockheed Martin said that it was stealth.
No, Skunkworks, not Lockheed Martin. Yeah. Skunkworks, the people who designed the plane.
Skunkworks is
it's the same thing. Yeah, it's a team within Lockheed. What? Yeah, it's a team within Lockheed.
Yeah, but they oh my God. Okay, but Skunkworks is the people that I said did this, not Lockheed Martin. I didn't bring up Lockheed Martin. I said they were a conglomerate of the people that do all these things. But Skunkworks literally says that the SR-71 is a stealth plane.
Skunkworks is just a pseudonym for Lockheed Martin. So you said the Lockheed Martin Advanced Development Program claims that it was stealth.
Didn't you listen to what SE Montreal just read to you all? It's ridiculous what you're doing now.
Okay, can you just not interrupt? Where do you have evidence that they claimed that they publicly communicated?
Watch the whole documentary, dude. That's all true. Everything you said. I pulled up the declassified documents from 1981. I'm reading them right now, and the whole purpose of it was to design an aircraft that could fly higher, faster, as well as reduce its radar cross section and provide both infrared and radar jamming gear. Like that's stealth in all words, but the actual word. So I'm thinking this is kind of a petty squabble here.
Tony, I guess you have all the rights in the world to call me a liar. Then is that what you want me to tell you? Is that I am a liar? I lied to you about the stealth plane, and the SR-71 isn't stealth.
What I want,
the Equinox isn't where I said it was. Is that what you want? I can do that for you. I don't agree with it, and I don't think a lot of people else here believe that I was lying to you about the stealth plane. I might have been misrepresenting Point Nemo exactly where it was, but it was the general area of what I was trying to get us at as far as
Point Nemo. It was 7,000 kilometers away. That's not the general area. Like you wouldn't even be in the United. So
you're not understanding. You're not understanding.
I'm not in the general area of Miami because the distance between them is 7,000 kilometers.
I'm trying to say is no matter how you look at it, you can say I was lying and you can try and convince all the other people that I was lying. I know that I wasn't lying to you about these things. Maybe I misrepresented it or I spoke wrong about exactly where Point Nemo was as opposed to where we were talking about where things are 6 to 7 miles away from any continent of those points that we were talking about. When we talk about the stealth, you're not going to convince me or the other things that I was lying to you about it. You can convince you can make me or in your mind think that I was. And I will go ahead and for the sake of argument tell you can believe I was, but I was not lying. I was not lying.
You can believe that you're not lying.
Even about that equator spotty, Eon at the spot corrected it was about the celestial equator and not the ground equator. He corrected that at the spot. So calling him a liar for that is dishonest from your part.
No, because the equinox is not defined. The equinoctial point is not defined using celestial coordinates. It's defined by crossing the equator on the ground. So look, this is. You
were so focused on what you wanted to correct that you didn't even listen what he was explaining at the moment, and that's why you're thing.
Okay, so what I want is not for you to agree that you're lying. What I want is for you to show a greater respect for making sure that what you say is correct, right? Check that you think something is true, that you heard it once from somebody, or that you constructed this, elaborate mythology in which what you are saying is true. That's not a basis for determining truth. Look it up.
Okay, Tony. I apologize for making you think I'm lying. I'm not. I don't care how you word it or say that I have to have respect for whatever it is that you're saying. I'm not lying to you. I know you think I am.
Dude. Let's just move on. All right, we get it. There's a difference between telling a known untruth, right, or being mistaken. You were mistaken. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't mistaken on the stealth, but I will go ahead and say Point Nemo or how we were looking at the celestial equator was a mistake. But the stealth plane and how I was describing it and all that, it's not a mistake. I'm not mistaken. He just thinks I'm a liar, and that's fine. I'm gonna stop there with that. No matter how it goes on, even before I'm done with talking about the lies or any of this. Let's go on to the next subject, or whatever. I'm done.
Yeah, let's move on. No more meta. He wasn't intentionally lying, and he corrected himself, and that's all there is to it.
But yeah, we talked about this last night, dude. E1. You still think that 0 degrees Aries sets the equinox?
No, I already went through that. It's not on it. The lady that just said something right there explained exactly what happened. You guys were talking about, or what he's talking about as far as the equinox and all that was around the equator. And I was not using the equator. I'm using the celestial equator. So everything was completely misconstrued as far as what you think I was saying and what I was actually saying. Now, when we come back to Aries, what you're talking about with the Aries, I didn't say that. I said that me and you were even talking about this as far as
Wait. You already made a claim. That's wrong.
What?
The celestial equator cuts right through the actual equator. You got the ground position of the equator, 0 degrees latitude, that extends out into the sky. It's what we call the celestial equator.
I just wanted to ask, can someone enlighten me what's the difference between the equator and the celestial equator is? Because it's basically explained, right?
The celestial equator is the extension of the equator, the plane of the equator out into the sky. So
but it's just the ground positions of the sky positions of the Earth equator is the celestial equator.
Right. So he's saying that he uses the celestial equator instead of the ground equator. It's the same thing, dude.
No, it's not. So the let me describe what I think the celestial equator. The celestial equator is where the Orion's belt actually goes across the plane of existence. The equator is where the sun is going around at whether it be the vernal equinox or the autumn or the autumn equinox.
Incoherent nonsense, bro. You're not gonna fool us, bro. Like we
This
do
is
this
the
all
same
the
I'm
time
not
here.
trying to.
You can't
No,
just
I'm
come
not
in
trying
here
to
and act
fool
like
you.
you know
I'm
what you're
saying
talking
what I'm
about.
talking
I'm
about.
gonna
You
call
said
you
I
out, dude. He
wasn't talking
doesn't know
about
what
the
guys. He
equator.
doesn't know what
Okay,
he's talking about. Don't get fooled by
I
this
just
guy's
asked
fancy
you,
words, bro.
E1, I just asked you before you make claims to look up. Can you look up the definition of the celestial equator for me?
I can't right now. I'm just laying in bed, and it's all my power's been turned off as far as I can't turn on my.
Okay, well, I'll do it then. The celestial equator, the projection of the Earth's equator, an imaginary circle equidistant from the celestial poles.
Right, and I don't purport to that. That's what I've been trying to say. So you think that the celestial equator extends up into the sky. I don't think that. I think the celestial equator is the middle of the sky, and the equator is where we mark the actual movement of the sun. The celestial equator, in my model or in my mind, I'm not saying you have to agree with this. The celestial equator is not the same as the equator in my model, and I've shown that.
Don't use the term celestial equator. The term celestial equator has a definition. You are talking to somebody else, and you use a term that you have a very specific. You need to give it a completely different name, and not a name that has already been assigned to a completely different concept.
What's the difference between the celestial equator and the ground equator besides the fact that the ground equator is projecting out into the sky? What's the difference?
The celestial equator is the sky. That's where the celestial equator is. It's the Orion's belt coming across on the
I'm not denying.
the celestial
I already
equator.
conceded that.
The equator. Okay, so the equator actually is not on the middle like that. The equator goes around as far as what I am saying the equator is. I know that if you look at the ball, it's going to be exactly on what you're talking about, but the equator diverges away from the celestial equator or from Orion's belt in reality. That's why I think there's a difference.
If you're standing 0 degrees latitude,
yep,
and overnight Orion's belt will be on top of you. None of these three stars are exactly over the equator, but if you make a line in the belt itself will be directly over your head at one point at night. So
where on the Earth is Orion not on the equator?
Yeah, that's.
On the celestial equator.
Where in our reality on Earth is Orion's belt not on the equator? Because you're saying it doesn't match.
No, because you guys are saying exactly what I'm trying to get away from. You guys are using the ball terminology.
Answer the question.
I'm trying. I'm trying. So the equator in my model or in my understanding of how it is not the celestial equator, because the equator, you guys looked at my map before, right? Or am I completely talking to somebody different that hasn't seen my map?
It was awesome stuff that you presented last night, but I thought we went through this already. Obviously, it went one ear out the other because you're
okay. So I don't believe when I put my map down there, I don't believe that what I'm depicting, the center where the Orion's belt goes across the center of the map, I don't believe that's the equator. I know you do. I know that's what you're calling it.
We're not talking about beliefs here. What do we see in reality? You made a claim. You said that the celestial equator doesn't match the ground equator. Why is that? Why do you think that? Where in our reality can you justify your premise that it doesn't match
because of the actual GPs of the sun when you're following it around on the vernal equinox or the autumn equinox? Either one. It doesn't matter if it's March 21st. Hold on. It don't matter if it's March 21st or September 21st. But that equator, when we're marking that the sun is going around the equator, or that day that you're saying is going around the equator, or that 0 latitude north or south, it is not on my map or on any other map where it's on the celestial equator past those times. It's not.
On March 21st, the sun is directly on top of 0 degrees latitude on the Earth equator. It's directly 90 degrees over your head. This defines
that's when the equinox happens, is when the sun itself, its sub-solar point, reaches 0 degrees latitude. 0 degrees latitude matches the celestial equator. It literally projects out into the sky. He's saying it doesn't.
And 0 degrees latitude also is below Orion's belt.
Right. He's
It's
saying
the
it's
same
not.
position on the ground.
Somewhere on the Earth, he's saying it's not. And I want to know where that position is on Earth so I can verify that for myself. Because you're making these outlandish claims.
Not on the ball. Oh, this only what I'm talking about as far as the celestial equator and the actual ground equator, or what you would call the equator, because it's we actually have something called the equator, and then we have something called the celestial equator. In my map, they are not the same. On the ball map or on the AE map, they are the same.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying, but I don't depict it that way.
I want you to come up with the evidence, dude. Just stop making dogmatic claims. Just show me the evidence for your premise.
The only evidence I have is showing you my map. I'm not trying to say that I can take.
So you have nothing. I'm good.
No.
So,
but you claim, for example, the celestial equator and the ground equator, and there where the sun is equinox, it's not kind of, for example, going through Ecuador or going through, what is it, Congo or so.
Okay, put it this way. For the days that we're talking about for the celestial equator to be on those vernal equinox and the autumn equinox, right? I believe that, and it's not I believe, this is what is in the nautical almanacs. The sun does not transfer across the celestial equator the entire day. It is only a moment in time, a few minutes, that it crosses over that celestial equator. Not the equator that you guys are talking about. Not what I'm depicting the equator, but the celestial equator. And we can watch that on the nautical almanac in March 21st and September 21st, when the GP of the sun, when we mark the sun down, it crosses from the north to the south. That moment when it does. That moment when it's done is what I'm talking the celestial equator. You consider it the whole day being the equator. I don't.
So no, this is absolutely false. The sun, the timing of the equinox is exactly the moment, and Lion for Zion mentioned this earlier. It's defined as the point at which the center of the sun is directly over the equator. That persists for only a very short period of time. Nobody has claimed otherwise, but that event can occur on the 20th of September or the 21st of September. It is not fixed in date within the year, nor is it fixed in time within the day. It varies between years as to when that occurs. And you're looking at 1 year's celestial almanac and saying this is the time at which it occurred. Well, if it then I don't understand how you can possibly be making this mistake, because keep on claiming
many years,
but it doesn't always occur on the 21st. This is a simple fact, and it doesn't always occur at the same time during the day, which was another thing that you claimed yesterday was a fact, and you didn't withdraw.
Well, no, I will argue against that, but I'm not. That's not what I'm arguing here. I'm not arguing that as far as that. I'm saying that when the sun crosses what we are talking about during the vernal equinox, when it not the exact moment that you're talking about, but when the sun crosses over, it doesn't cross over the equator and stay on the equator for the entire 24 hours of whatever day you're talking about, whether it be the 21st or the 20th. There is a moment when the sun crosses over, and that's where I'm talking the celestial equator.
But
the rest of you,
equinox, and this GP of the sun at the equinox happens on the Earth equator, on a specific spot.
One day,
on different years, you have that on a different location, but that location is always 0 degrees latitude.
Right, and it's still a whole day, dude. Because it takes about a day for it to actually transition. Yes, it takes a whole day, dude, for it to transition.
No, it doesn't.
The ground point
there's only one day. There's only one day during the year, in my opinion. There's only one day where the sun actually travels straight, dude. Right. This is the biggest proof for the globe model. Right. Outside the 24-hour sun, is that there's only on the equinox does the sun take a straight path. You can do it with your sundial if you put a peg on the ground, right? A stick in the ground, and you follow the shadow. Every other day besides on the equinox, right? The shadow curves, takes a curve. The sun takes a curved path. On the equinox, the sun takes a straight path, and you can mark down that shadow all day long. It will be a straight path.
The thing is, if you measure,
I would differ with you on that. That's okay.
If you measure very precisely, Lion, it's not the whole day. It actually is a little bit south of the equator, then it's on the equator, and then it's a little bit north on the equator. It's basically just a moment in time where it's exactly over the equator. You can just Google, for example, Equinox 2026, and it will tell you which moment, which time of day the equinox actually happens.
Okay, but I'd like to correct. The Zion is correct to say that the sun is over the equator for the entire day. He's not correct that that's the only day that it occurs. The angular size of the sun is about
0.5 degrees.
0.5 degrees, right? And the velocity of the sun moves about 47 degrees in 180 days. So its center point, if we linearize it, is moving north-south at approximately a quarter of a degree a day. So the sun will be within a quarter of a degree of the equator for about a 3-day period, for 24 hours either side of the equinox. That means that the disk of the sun will be overhead of the equator. So if we interpret it that way, line for Zion is completely correct. But the disk of the sun is directly overhead of the equator on the day of the equinox, and I would argue for a little bit either side of that as well.
Yeah, the subsolar point, right? It will be on the equator for around 3 days because the equator itself, 0 degrees latitude, is a segment north to south about 70 miles, 69 miles per degree, right? So we got a 69, 70 mile segment, right? The subsolar point of the sun's only around 20 miles max, right? We're talking about 14 miles, 14 to 20 miles if you're going to split hairs. And then it takes each day, right? It's traveling about 14 to 20 miles. So by the time it completes that whole segment, it's going to be around 3 days.
So, but to get back to the central point with E1, the point, the equinox, as you say, is the exact point at which the central ground point of the sun is directly over the equator. Which is exactly the same thing as saying that it's on the celestial equator in our model. Now, in what sense are you trying to draw some distinction, right? So the ground point is on the equator. That means that the center of the sun is on the celestial equator, according from our point. How is that different in your model, and why?
Because when I look at the nautical almanacs and I look at the GP of the sun as it crosses over that celestial equator, or you're saying the equator, when you look at those GPs as it goes through that day, whether it be coming from south to north or north to south, you can watch the nautical almanac and it literally shows you at this exact Greenwich hour mean time is when it crosses over. And you can watch it throughout the day. The sun's GP, the actual GP of the sun for that day, for Greenwich Mean Time, goes 0.03 of an arc degree, 0.02 an arc degree an hour ahead, 0.01 of an arc degree 30 minutes before that time happens. And when it crosses over within a 15-minute period. And then you start seeing on the nautical almanac within an hour after that crossing over, it shows the sun in the southern latitudes. So there's not a time when I'm looking at the nautical almanac when I can follow the GP of the sun at a 0 latitude for any amount of time. It crosses from the north to the south. That's why I'm saying that.
But that means your equator is a spiral. So it's not a circle.
I'm not coming. That's not my information. That's the nautical almanacs from NOAA.
No, wait a second. The nautical almanac does not claim that this is the equator. You say it's on the equinox day directly under the sun. This would be a spiral because the sun is, due to the progression, spiraling north, and the beginning of the equator does not meet. Wait a second. The ground position, the beginning of the equator of that day, does not meet the end of the equator of that day.
Correct. Yes, that's exactly. And it's not spirals. It's not one spiral. It's two spirals connected together between the north and south quadrants, or the north and the south hemispheres, that are connected at the celestial equator. Those two spirals.
There's a problem with that, though. When you, real quick, you know, when you actually have a sundial on that day, or a peg, that the shadow travels straight. The sun travels straight. Now, even if it takes 3 days for it to progress through the whole segment of the equator, right? Within those 3 days, there's only one day, 1 24-hour period, where if you were to plot that shadow, where it's straight, it's straight.
But that's only on the equator, the celestial equator.
Yeah, only on the equator. So how is that possible?
But that doesn't mean, because that's not what you see in reality. So if I'm not on the equator and I stick that stick down, the sun doesn't go straight. You still get this curve of the shadow.
No, that's not true. No, that's not true.
It is.
Anywhere on the earth, I could be in Massachusetts, in New York City, and I could put my sundial out, and I could, on the equinox, it will travel a straight line path.
No, it doesn't, because you wouldn't be able to use your
sunrise to sunset. From sunrise to sunset. Dude, I'm part of a group that have done this, dude. I can pull up videos on it right now.
So you're telling me I can't use a sundial in on the equinox in Maine or in anywhere on the earth on the equinox, because the sun won't rotate; it'll only go straight across the sky.
No.
You can stick a peg in the ground in Maine or in New York. You can stick a peg in the ground, and you can plot it out. Every half an hour, you make a mark. Every half an hour, you make a mark until sunset, and then you get a meter stick, and you connect all those dots. It will be a straight line. Every other day besides on the equinox, it's a curved line.
Yeah, line. I think there is a misunderstanding that the sun always travels straight through the sky. The thing is just, if you have a stick and a level surface, the shadow, the tip of the stick's shadow creates a straight line on the equinox. And on all other days, the shadow is not a straight line. But the sun is always on a straight line. It's just a question of a tilt of this line. So
no, even on the globe model, right?
No. On the globe model, on all days,
dude.
No,
hold on.
On all days on the model, you can have.
I understand. Dude. Oh my freaking goodness, dude.
On the globe model, you can create the same thing if you tilt the plane where the shadow is on. But on the equinox, this plane where the shadow is straight is flat, is horizontal.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to convey, bro. But you gotta understand that even in the globe model, every other day besides on the spring and the spring and fall equinox, the vernal and autumnal equinox, the shadow is curving because of the tilt of the earth, the way that the earth is positioned, right? And it's spin, because you gotta remember in your model the earth is spinning, right? So there's when it aligns just ever so slightly, where it positions itself, where the sun's at the subsolar point of the sun is right at the equator. That's when you can get a straight line. Every other day, it's not a straight line.
Yeah, Lion, you did not. I do not necessarily disagree with you, but if you want to be accurate, the only specialty on the equinox is that this plane where you cast the shadow on is horizontal, is flat, level on the earth. On every other day, you can create the same phenomenon if you tilt that ground plane where you cast the shadow on, because the sun is always traveling straight.
Yep. Yeah, so the two of you are both correct. The two of you are both correct. Line is correct in essence when he says that the shadows form a straight line on the equinox.
Yes.
And you're correct that the sun is traveling in a straight line all the time. Basically, the two of you are in agreement. And Line is correct that when you do it for a standard non-tilted sun clock or sundial, you get a curved track traced out by the shadows every day of the year apart from the equinoxes. So you're both
exactly
in agreement, I think. You were trying to clarify and bring in sort of greater precision, but yeah, in essence, what Lion was saying, that a sort of you're exactly right to bring in that minor correction, but Lion's main point is absolutely
right.
valid.
I just want to say that he thinks that I was using an equinoctial sundial. I'm not using one of those. I don't have to tilt my sundial depending on my latitude. I just keep it flat on the ground, leveled on the ground. It's a unique sundial. I don't use it for keeping track of the hours. I use it for keeping track of the months and the weeks. Or it's called the equinoctial, equatorial sundial, whatever.
Yeah, I just posted in the chat a nice sundial, which actually always works. It's also very, very interesting. Look at the video.
I'm looking. Yeah, see, that's not the sundial that I'm using though.
No, I know, but I think this is a very nice and very like nice visual sundial.
One still here? Ewan had a question.
I am still here. I will be honest, I'm fading quickly. I've been out here on this channel for like 12 hours today, so but go ahead.
Well, if it's already been answered, then you don't need to answer it. But on the map that I think that you're part of with New Perspective, it shows that if you are on +1 degree latitude and -1 degree latitude, and around Africa, you're very close to each other, but then you get as far apart as you can when you get to the international dateline. Is that accurate or no?
Yes, as far as the separation from the north and the south hemispheres or quadrants, whatever you're talking about, one north and one south, as you get to the international dateline, you're going to be very far away from each other. Yes.
And so if we could show that that's not the case, then that would falsify that map?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. And on that map, it shows that Australia is about the size of Africa. What would you say to that?
Australia is the size of Africa. What do you mean by that? Oh, you mean the actual...
The size, yeah.
It shouldn't be I don't think it should be the same size as Africa. Maybe the width is the same, but not the actual square footage area size of it. No, not even close.
If your map is accurate, do you accept that if you measure a distance on your map between 2 points, that should be some multiple of the real world distance?
Of course, yes. Except for there's one little... I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
No. If you understood my question, I was only going to clarify.
Yeah, no, so the measurements all work out perfectly as far as if you're in the northern hemisphere and you're crossing over into the southern hemisphere, as long as you don't go into those anomalous areas that I'm talking about, like what we're talking about, the furthest west along the celestial equator and the furthest east along the celestial equator, when you cross over that area and you're doing your measurements, that's where we have the problems, as far as that doesn't match up perfectly to what you would think it would be if you transposed it from my map to the ball, or vice versa. But the problem is that even the ball has that problem when you transfer in those areas. I'm not saying that they have exact measurement problems; they have timing problems. So when you get on a boat and you're like from the French Polynesians, and you traverse from the southern area to the top along those anomalous areas, you do have problems with measurements. Even
what's your evidence? What's your evidence for that time?
Hold on, let me back them up real quick. Like in my model, the circles get bigger and bigger, so it's an apparent straight line because the equator is the biggest circle. So it just makes the sun appear to be going straight. So in other words, like 1 degree and 2 degrees north or south almost look like they're going almost dead straight because it's a big ass circle, and it's not till it starts to get closer to 23 where it starts arcing and shit. So in other words, it's just so big of a circle, it looks like it's going straight. That would be my answer to that.
But you
Right,
just
but I think they were more talking about the
because so if it so those even near that central line of your map, the distance between say a line of 5 degrees and the celestial equator, or the projection of the celestial equator as you claim, is not uniform. You can see the curve of those lines. Where is a uniform degrees east, I'm further away from the celestial equator than I was. That's not how parallels of latitude work.
You're tripping, dude.
Can anyone enlighten me how his map looks like?
So it's
an azimuthal equidistance dual pole projection.
Okay, so it's an azimuthal equidistant projection. It's an azimuthal equidistant projection centered at 0 degrees north, 0 degrees east.
Okay, yeah, I got it. So the one thing that even worse worked than the normal AE map. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's a pretty interesting model, man. It better reflects reality than the single pole.
Yeah, of course. If you invoke Pac-Man and whatever, and I don't know, teleportation all the time, maybe.
But I'm not invoking that. But I see why you would think that until you understood the way that I presented it, or the way that I'm saying it with electromagnetics, that everything is held within inside of this field. I don't have any Pac-Maning or portals. I don't describe it that way.
Saying electromagnetics helps that you can see from both poles the 24-hour sun over 3 days at the same time.
No, you're not seeing 24-hour sun at both
right
poles.
At the equator, maybe.
Absolutely.
If you're right at the equator, you might see a dusk for 24 hours for 3 days.
No, if you are at the North Pole on the equinox, you will see 24-hour sun straight at the horizon for more than 1 day, and the same thing happens right at the South
You can
Pole.
only be at one pole at one time, though. But yeah.
But if someone else is at the South Pole,
right
you
at the
can
pole,
see it
then
also
on
there.
equinox, you'd see dusk.
So there is no figure of 8 with the sun.
Yo, come on, Snooz. Let him finish, dude.
Yeah, I was just saying, if you're at,
Ryan was still talking.
Like if Line's at one pole and I'm at another pole, right at the pole, yeah, you'd see a dusk basically, or a twilight, maybe a little bit of sun. Yeah, just do a circle around you.
Yeah, you definitely do not just see twilight. You see the literal sun at the same time from both poles.
Really? Okay, so how high do you think the sun comes up if you're at the pole when it's on equinox?
No, it's at the horizon.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Dusk.
But it does not. No. Dusk and dawn are after or before sunrise.
Call it what you want, man.
No. That's a different
dusk,
distance.
bro. Unless you're living on you're on a perfectly flat sheet of ice, you're gonna have some blockage in the distance, dude.
So you have dawn, then you have sunrise, then you have day, then you have sunset, and then you have dusk. So this is how it's defined. After the sun has totally set, you are in the twilight. It's not on the sunrise. And you cannot have on a figure of 8. If the sun makes a figure of 8, you cannot
It's not
see.
a figure of 8, dude. It only crosses once a year. So that's the only thing that gives you the right to call it a figure of 8. Every day it's a circle. So listen, one more thing. It's either circling in the north or the south. So it's never circling both. So it's going in the north, and then that one day it shifts and does the counterclockwise in the south.
Correct, which means you cannot have 24-hour sunset in the north at the same time as in the south, because you have basically the sun over the horizon in the north, And then from now to then, within one day, it should disappear to the south and the north should be dark. But this is not what's happening. You see the sun from both poles at the same time for more than 24 hours.
I'm sorry to tell you, you do not. I lived in Alaska. I lived in Alaska for over a year. I lived in Alaska for over a year above the 60th parallel, above Fairbanks, and you do not on the equinoxes even in the 60th parallel see the sun for more than 24 hours at March 21st or at autumn. There's no way.
Of course not.
That's what you just said. That you see the sun for 24 hours.
You're not at the pole.
You need to listen. He said that would occur at the poles, right?
Okay,
it's at the
so
pole.
If you're not, so if you're not at the pole, if you're below the pole, in between those two areas where the sun is, how would you not have a 24-hour sun, but you would at the pole?
Because the axis of rotation of the sun is perpendicular to the solar plane. What was again the name? Anyway,
the plane of the ecliptic.
The ecliptic. Sorry, yeah. So you will have roughly 12 hours of sunlight if you're not at the pole. A little bit more because of refraction during sunrise and sunset, but if you're below the pole, you don't have 24 hours. If you're at the pole, the sun is skimming exactly on the horizon for 24 hours.
Hey, that's good.
Because the sun is not a point
Can I try and explain this? In the ball model, one side of the Earth is facing towards the sun, and one side of the Earth is facing away from the sun. The second bit is where it is night. If you are not at the pole, the rotation of the Earth will take you from the side where you are on the sun, where you're on the same side of the sun. Well, apparently it's so complicated that I need to break this down into small elements.
Go do your grandstanding, dude. No, here's the thing. So if y'all could do that, if you could go to each pole, have somebody at each pole right exactly at the pole, and show that because that's not even. It's a day ahead or a day behind some. But that would be interesting though. If the north and the south at the same exact time you had but dude, even in there's effects where you see the sun like 2 weeks early.
Yeah, Brian, you know why it's a day early or a day late? The
it's
equinox?
Not predictable.
No, it's not because of the position. Celestial equator and the ground equator, but I'm just saying that when the sun reaches the equator, right, it could happen at 6 in the morning, right, or it could happen at 11:30 at night. If it's 11:30 at night, it's gonna be the day prior. If it's at 6 in the morning, it's gonna be that day. You see what I'm saying? Because the day starts at 12 midnight.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, this year, for example, it's March 20th at 10:46 Eastern US time.
And the sun is always up somewhere at that time.
Let me say something. Hold on.
The reason he's confused is because the way sunrise and sunset are calculated is when the very top of the sun appears and when the very top of the sun disappears. That gives you an extra few minutes rather than picking
So what about the
It's not based off of daylight. It's not based off of daylight, dude. It's not. Hold on, bro. He's saying it's.
Man. What about the 24
It is based off of daylight.
What about the 24 hours of darkness?
What about it?
Okay, that's not on the equator though. That's
so the stars that are over the equator. Wait. The stars that are over the equator, we should be able to see from both poles also, right? On the same day. Is that true too?
No, because you have the sun up and you have the sun at the horizon, therefore your atmosphere is lit up and you can't see many stars. Have you ever seen a lot of stars on sunrise? You have basically on the one pole, you have basically 3 days or 2 days of sunset, while at the same time you have 2 days of sunrise at the other pole.
So you're saying the sun is over the...
hold on, dude. I want to clarify something.
Go ahead, Lion.
It's very important. It has to do with the equinox. He thinks it has to do with when the sun peaks over the horizon. Is that what you said, Nasser Show?
That's when we describe date. That's when we describe daytime starting. Yes.
Yeah, but it's not, the equinox itself is not based off when the sun peaks over the horizon. It's when the sun reaches the equinox marker, which is the equator, 0 degrees latitude, based off of Greenwich time. So when you have Universal Standard Time, right, and the meridian is the first hour of the day, right? Whenever the sun reaches the equinox based off of Greenwich time or Universal Standard Time, that's when the equinox is. Sometimes it happens on March 20th. Sometimes it happens on March 21st. Why is it incorrect?
It is correct. What you just said is correct.
You said it's correct. Okay, cool. All right. I just wanted to clarify that.
Look at the ephemeris, and you'll see that it's random. I mean, it's not random, but it's not exactly predictable. When they say it's going to be equinox, like I said, it's sometimes like even a day and a half. I've heard like a couple days out of schedule. But here's the thing: so if you say if you say the sun is over the equator, and we could see daylight from each pole, so wouldn't equally there be a time where we see dark? Because there's stars that go over close to the equator, right by it anyway. Except for actually, there is no star. In fact, I challenge somebody to show me a star that's right on the equator. That's my challenge to any of the Globers. Find me a star directly under the equator. Why wouldn't there be a star right under the equator?
Because the equator's moving. It's not like a pole. There's stars over the equator. It's only there for
find me one, dude. That's my challenge to you.
Oh God! I mean,
what is the problem finding a star? I mean, you mean how directly you mean? How many, I don't know, arc seconds or so away from the equator are you searching?
10.
10 arc seconds.
Find it.
Should be easy.
Maybe you can, but I couldn't. Check this out. But so you should be able to have a day equal or a night where you could see from both poles. I mean, if it's as equal as you say it is on a globe, and you got daytime from both poles, well, there's stars you're saying that are right there at the equator. Why wouldn't you be able to see them?
Because at that moment in time, you have on the one pole you have over 24-hour sunrise, while on the other pole you have 24-hour sunset. And during sunrise, wait a second, and during sunrise and during sunset, you don't see stars because your sky is bright.
But so it's not equal. In other words, it's either on one side or the other. In other words, you're not going to get daylight at both poles at the same exact time.
You do get daylight on both poles. You do get daylight on both poles at the same time. You cannot have night at both poles at the same time because always more than 50% of the Earth is lit up because the sun has size. This is the one thing. And the other thing is because the sun, because we have an atmosphere.
Wouldn't it make more sense to you that you're going to have 24 hours of daylight at one pole and then it's almost daylight at the other, and then the next day it shifts to where it's 24 hours at the other? Wouldn't that make more sense?
No, it wouldn't make more sense because it's not how reality works.
You say that.
I thought on the poles you get one sunset and sunrise. I thought on the poles you get one sunset and one sunrise a year, or is it 2 a year?
Yes. And during the equinox, you have on the one pole you have sunrise, and during the equinox on the other pole you have a sunset. And that sunrise and sunset takes over 24 hours.
So you're not getting them both at the same time then? One day it's
yes,
setting,
of course
the other day
you
it's
get
rising.
both at the same time. It's the same time. Literally,
it's not equal, bro.
Same time.
It's not equal. Because
what's
if
not
one
equal?
day it's set, then you'd have an extra day at one of the poles, or it wouldn't be equal.
Correct.
It wouldn't be half.
Because the sun has size. That's what I said. More than 50% of the Earth is lit up by the sun. That's why the night is always shorter. If you globally look on the equinox, you have more than 12 hours daytime and less than 12 hours nighttime, due to the sun's size and due to refraction.
And vice versa, dude. And vice versa.
No.
You're leaving out the vice versa, man.
No,
So what
there is no
Jeremy
vice
just said is a
versa.
good point, man. What Jeremy just said is a pretty good point. So one day it's rising. I mean, for one pole it's rising, for the other pole it's setting, man.
That's right. Because one's
I see
going
your
to
point. I do
24-hour
see your point,
darkness.
though. Just so you know, I do see your point.
Correct, but it's not a point in time where the one is dark and then afterwards the sun rises at the other side. It happens simultaneously, where the first half of the sun is already set at the North Pole, the other half of the sun has already risen from the South Pole.
Who's verified that?
Oh God.
No, seriously, man. I mean, that's a claim.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Well, the 24-hour sun alternates between the north and the south, and same thing with 24-hour darkness. It alternates as soon as the sun reaches the equator and goes over the equator, then you get 24-hour sun. I mean, 24-hour darkness.
Yeah, but it's not as equal as he thinks it is. Look at the ephemeris.
You're right. You're right. It's not as equal. I know about that, but
I'd say it rotates like Lion's saying. It rotates from one to the other because it's not as equal as we make it out to be. As he's just making a claim, dude.
Sort of like the reason you can't really see Polaris, south of the equator. Once the sun reaches that point, dude, it's 24-hour darkness, depending if the sun's traveling north or south. But I do notice that there's anomalies between the north and the south regarding the amount of daylight. It can be upwards. There's they call it a disparity up to 30 minutes between the north and the south. It's not actually perfectly symmetrical regarding daylight hours. And I think that there's a few reasons why that could be, because the south actually can experience up to 30 minutes more daylight, even with the corresponding latitudes to the north. So the same exact latitude where the sun is in the south can experience up to 30 minutes more daylight than the north, probably either because of different types of refraction or because of average elevation. Because Antarctica is about 8,000 feet average elevation, so that would allow more daylight.
Hey, can I just say, hey, Brian, it's good to see you again. I hope you're well.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Rob. I listen in all the time. I'm a fan of yours, man. You know that.
Thanks. Just glad you're
Actually,
still kicking.
Excuse me, I got that backwards. The north can experience up to 30 minutes more daylight than the south, even though the south has a higher average elevation.
I think I figured you knew you did, but
It's the other way around.
We got the point, though. I know what you meant.
You would actually expect the south to experience more daylight, but maybe because it's either larger, right? The surface area is larger than the north on the AE, or because it's colder, it could arrest the light a lot quicker.
But hey, you hear this? At least they're not bitching about the 20. Like now they're getting real fine into the details with their arguments. So now they're not talking about what about the 24-hour sun. I mean, it's a way better argument, guys. You hear that?
24-hour sun.
Now at least we're getting the minutia of
that's because the 24-hour
and what we can prove and can't prove.
That's because the 24-hour Antarctic sun shows the Earth to be a sphere, and you all know it. That's why they went down there.
So, for example, in 2021,
sun circles.
In 2021, at the North Pole, the sun rises on the 18th of March, 7:09 UTC, and the sun sets at the South Pole 4 days later on the 22nd of March, 13:08 UTC. So they have 4 days, even a little bit more than 4 days, seeing the sun at the same time. So the sunrise starts on the 18th and the sun sets on the other pole on the 22nd of March. And the same in September. At the South Pole, the sun rises on the 20th of September and sets on September 24th on the north. 4 days, simultaneous daylight. No figure of 8. No change from the northern to the southern hemisphere.
Varies. In reality, it varies, and you can look it up.
The
What do
data?
you mean in reality it varies?
You call it an anomaly. You know what I'm saying? Dude, how come
It's not an anomaly, it's a normally.
Every time I go to talk, bro, you just dog pile right back in on me, dude. It's aggravating, dude. So
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You have data to support this, or is it just a claim?
Let him speak. I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, with the daylight, it's not even so accurate as you think, especially in the poles. There's them effects, the Elias, what you call it effect, or not the Elias, I don't know, I forgot the name of it.
Refraction?
Pizio said it the other night, and Ether, they had a little show on it where you could see the sun up to 2 weeks early. It's been documented. I mean, it's not as perfect as y'all are making it out to be. And I would say if it was so equal, then you should equally have 24 hours of darkness at both poles. If you got 24 hours of light, then there should be times you have 24 hours of darkness. But I think it rotates from one to the other. I think you're going to have it one day and then not the other. And you're talking about standing exactly at the pole. So who's verified this? Who's been standing exactly at both poles and on the phone communicating with each other? You know, there's anomalies with daylight, dude. It's not as accurate as you're making it out to be when you're in the poles. Like you'd call it an anomaly, finger quotes in the air, and it's constant anomalies in these areas, man, with different effects and shit.
But it's not an anomaly. It's completely normal. So there are two things that are counting on that, or three things. The first, Earth is a globe. Okay, you don't agree with that. The second is the sun has size. It has 0.5 degrees of angular size. So it's not a point source of light. And we have refraction. And that causes always more light. I don't know how often I have to repeat it. Always more light than darkness on Earth. So if you have 4 days of simultaneous sunlight on both poles, you cannot have simultaneous darkness of both poles. It's impossible. And that's not an anomaly. It's not an anomaly. It's completely normal.
Okay, so you're describing a model. We're talking about reality, dude. We're trying to.
Yes, in reality.
Hold on, dude. We're trying to shoot in ideas, just bring up a better model of reality here. And so we're, if we want to talk models, then yeah, I'll say no, it alternates. It's perfectly normal for it to alternate. It's one day, it's 24 hours in the north. The next day, it's 24 hours in the south. Okay. But you're arguing it like it's reality, dude. Like you've proven it and shit, dude. Stop doing that, man. It's aggravating.
It's the same like there is no. It's the same like your side. There is no 24 hours in the south. Then they had 5 or 6 people had to fly there, and still people are denying that. It was even obvious before, and we know it. We have people down there at the South Pole 12 months a year, 24/7, all the time. And you can go to the North Pole with a ship or with a how do you say, like with cars or whatever in the winter time, and you can verify that with an expedition.
Yeah, and y'all did, right? And so we got a better model now that dictates that. So in this model, you must have 24 hours of sunlight. So you could quit grandstanding about that. But
wait, hold on.
I'll concede that.
24 hours of sun.
I want to prove y'all got it. Hold on, I want to prove y'all went and got it. I'm satisfied that there's a 24-hour sun, but we were already modeling this before that too. So at least give us a little credit.
No one. Wait a minute. No one was modeling the 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
Model with the 24-hour sun.
Yeah, there is, because there's no way to have on the AE map to have a 24-hour Antarctic sun.
It depends on where you position
the map.
But
you hear
24-hour sun.
At least we're getting the minutia of
because the 24-hour
and what we can prove and can't prove.
That's because the 24-hour Antarctic sun shows the Earth to be a sphere, and you all know it. That's why they went down there.
So, for example, in 2021, and the North Pole, the sun rises on the 18th of March, 7:09 UTC, and the sun sets at the South Pole 4 days later on the 22nd of March, 13:08 UTC. So they have 4 days, even a little bit more than 4 days, seeing the sun at the same time. So the sunrise starts on the 18th, and the sun sets on the other pole on the 22nd of March, and the same in September. At the South Pole, the sun rises on the 20th of September and sets on September 24th on the North. 4 days, simultaneous daylight. No figure of 8, no change from the North.
In reality, it varies. In reality, it varies, and you can look it up.
What do you mean in reality it varies?
You call it an anomaly. You know what I'm saying? Dude,
it's not an anomaly, it's a normally.
I'm going to talk, bro. You just dogpile right back in on me, dude. It's aggravating, dude.
So sorry, go ahead.
You have data to support this, or is it just a claim?
Let him speak. I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, with the daylight, it's not even so accurate as you think, especially in the poles. There's them effects, the Elias, what you call it effect, or not the Elias, I don't know, I forgot the name of it.
Reflection?
Pizio said it the other night, and Ether, they had a little show on it, where you could see the sun up to 2 weeks early. It's been documented. I mean, it's not as perfect as y'all are making it out to be. And I would say if it was so equal, then you should equally have 24 hours of darkness at both poles. If you got 24 hours of light, then there should be times you have 24 hours of darkness. But I think it rotates from one to the other. I think you're going to have it one day and then not the other. And you're talking about standing exactly at the pole. So who's verified this? Who's been standing exactly at both poles and on the phone communicating with each other? You know, there's anomalies in daylight, dude. It's not as accurate as you're making it out to be when you're in the poles. Like you'd call it an anomaly, finger quotes in the air. And it's constant anomalies in these areas, man, with different effects and shit.
But it's not an anomaly. It's completely normal. So there are two things that are counting on that, or three things. The first, Earth is a globe. Okay, you don't agree with that. The second is the sun has size. It has 0.5 degrees of angular size. So it's not a point source of light. And we have refraction. And that causes always more light. I don't know how often I have to repeat it. Always more light than darkness on Earth. So if you have 4 days of simultaneous sunlight on both poles, you cannot have simultaneous darkness of both poles. It's impossible. And that's not an anomaly. It's not an anomaly. It's completely normal.
Okay, so you're describing a model. We're talking about reality, dude. We're trying to...
Yes, in reality.
Hold on, dude. We're trying to shoot in ideas, just bring up a better model of reality here. And so we're, if we want to talk models, then yeah, I'll say no, it alternates. It's perfectly normal for it to alternate. It's one day, it's 24 hours in the north. The next day, it's 24 hours in the south, okay? But you're arguing it like it's reality, dude. Like you've proven it and shit, dude. Stop doing that, man. It's aggravating.
It's the same like there is no... It's the same like your side, there is no 24 hours in the south. Then they had 5 or 6 people had to fly there, and still people are denying that. It was even obvious before, and we know it. We have people down there at the South Pole 12 months a year, 24/7, all the time. And you can go to the North Pole with a ship or with a how do you say, like with cars or whatever in the wintertime. And you can verify that with an expedition.
Yeah, and y'all did, right? And so we got a better model now that dictates that. So in this model, you must have 24 hours of sunlight. So you could quit grandstanding about that. But
wait, hold on,
I can see that. I want to prove y'all got it. Hold on, I want to prove y'all went and got it. I'm satisfied that there's a 24-hour sun, but we were already modeling this before that too. So at least give us a little credit.
No one. Wait a minute. No one's modeling the 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
With the 24-hour sun.
Yeah, there is, because there's no way to have on the AE map to have a 24-hour Antarctic sun.
It depends on where you position
the map.
But there's no. Yeah, it's a map. It's a projection of the globe. But if you're going to say that's the reality, there's no way to have a 24-hour sun.
Yeah, no one does that.
Yeah, what do you mean nobody does that? I got all sorts of flat earthers prior to the TFE talking about how the sun's not there.
Good for them. Yeah, good for them. Go take up with them then. Here and start strawmanning us with your claims about other flat earthers. Fucking idiots.
Claim. Oh no, so you're saying not me. Not me. I didn't say that. Just everybody else said that, but not me.
On the dual pole maps, you can have 24-hour sun in the south, you can have 24-hour sun in the north, but you cannot have 24-hour sun at both poles at the same time, which is reality. So this map is ruled out.
Okay, no. How about the globe is ruled out? Because on the the summer solstice, you got 69% of the Earth daylit.
No. You have 69% of Earth population.
Listen to me, dude. You can't just make claims about and act like your model is so perfect. Reality shows that on the summer solstice, 69% of your globe is in daylight. So that so I can say that goes on your globe, but that would be a claim. That would be a claim.
You have beaten the crap out of the straw man now. No one claims who is barely saying this claim. First, it's not on the solstice. And second, it's not over 90% of the Earth. It's about the Earth population that sees daylight. And that includes the twilight zones.
Right. It's 90% of the
population. And it has nothing to do with the amount of ground.
So you're not as familiar with this as you think. It's 90% of the Earth's population. It's 69% of the Earth.
It's over 90%, I said, because I don't know the full number, but I know it's over 90%. And it's not of the Earth, it's of Earth population.
So
it's because the biggest amount of Earth's population is in the northern hemisphere, and you have at the same time in Africa and South America sunlight. I think the only part that is excluded is Australia and New Zealand or so.
It ain't even that. It's a part. It's just a small part of Australia. So here you go. So if I grant you half a degree of refraction everywhere at the same time, then you got about 55%. So you're still shit out of luck for 14%. But here's my thing. I'm not saying that destroys the mind, but if I was talking like you were, I would, because you're acting like we live in a model.
Ryan, are you trying to convince anyone that what you are saying is factual? Do you care at all whether or not I believe what you're saying?
Like you're so dead ass sure about it.
Do you care if I believe what you're saying?
You think you know everything, Tony. You don't, bro. Just accept it, bro.
I asked you a question about whether or not you care whether or not what you say is plausible to other people. Now, if you don't care about whether or not other people believe what you're saying, carry on the way that you are, because you are not making a coherent argument to counter Snooz's points. Please calm down, take it slowly.
Can I just before you do, Ryan, please? Yeah, before you do though, Ryan, please don't engage with PhD Tony for the love of God, please. This is not